I basically was in the break room for speakers in Arlington, Texas, and these three guys came over to me, and one of them said, "Aren't you Orly Amor?" I said, "Yeah." "Do I know you?" "Sorry, don't remember." And he said, no, we've never met before, but we've seen you on the circuit. And I said, "Oh, okay." So we started networking and talking. And at one point, one of them said to me, "I'm just curious, how did you get this gig?" I said, "I don't know. I called, I told them what I speak about. They paid me and I'm here." They all looked at me like if I had three heads. "You got paid?" And I'm like, "Oh no, what did I just do?" You guys didn't?" And they said, "Oh no, we got our expenses paid, but we didn't get paid." I said, "No, I got paid and I got my expenses paid." So they said, "Well, we want to know how you did that." And jokingly, Erin, jokingly, I said, "Well, if I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna have to charge you." But I was just kidding. And before I could say just
You're
kidding,
like, how
I said,
much?
"Okay, how much?" Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's where my whole world changed, because that was my aha moment of knowing that speakers did not get paid. I didn't know that before that day.
Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of.
All right. Welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast with my guest today, Orly Amor, who I have to tell this funny story to get us kicked off because, it's always 6 degrees of separation. It's really like 2 degrees of separation. And I've known you for a while, like been in circles and known of you and saw you on LinkedIn and all things. And then we end up having this conversation and I don't even know how it comes up that this third party, Precious Williams, and I were going to be on stage together the very next day. And that's a good friend of yours. Like, you guys are in New York, I'm in Chicago, the event's in Milwaukee. And you're like, "Hey, tell Precious she owes me sushi dinner," right? Right. So it's when you're out there in the world making things happen, the circles get very, very small.
They do.
Which is awesome. So before we get into your amazing story and all the things you do, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, all the official stuff?
Okay, the official. I
The
love
official
that.
stuff.
So I am a business coach for public speakers and entrepreneurs, and I help them make 6 figures in public speaking in their first year, guaranteed in writing. And I love saying that. I'm the only one in the world that guarantees 150K the first year in public speaking, or I work with you until you do. There you go.
Let's just stop there because you and I chatted about this.
Yeah.
I love that for a lot of reasons, and it's none of which are the markety thing about it. The thing that I love about it is the confidence and the courage it takes to put that out in writing into the world.
Yeah.
How do we get there? Because I know you're human, which means you didn't start there, right? How do we get to the point where we can, you hear about imposter syndrome and you hear all these things.
Right.
And yet there's a fine line between overpromising and the confidence of knowing, right?
Right. In any business, I always say you got to work in a business for at least a year so you can go through the 4 seasons, so you can go through all that ups and downs in a year. My parents used to own a restaurant and they used to write every single day in their journal what was the temperature outside, what was the weather like, how much they made, was there any event going on. And that's where I learned that, wow, you know what? You keep track of everything, and from year to year, you can see what's going on. So tracking is a big thing in any business. You got to know your numbers. I feel like I'm on Shark Tank when I say that, right? It's like, what does Kevin O'Leary say? What's your numbers? Well, this business of public speaking or coaching or this industry, there's nothing different about it. It's, you got to know your numbers, right?
Well, and I go back when people say this, I'm like, look, if nothing else, go watch Shark Tank and listen to the questions. They're all about the numbers.
Yep. Agreed. I totally agree with that. And that's also something that made entrepreneurship even easier to understand. When those questions come up, oh, do I know my numbers? That's the question people should ask themselves. Like, what do I know about my business enough? So when I make that bold statement is because I know the industry now for 27 years full time. I can tell you that the numbers are, it's nothing. What I'm guaranteeing is absolutely minimum wage. It's like working for McDonald's for minimum wage. It's exactly the same thing. Minimum wage at McDonald's is, depending on the state, $16 an hour, where in public speaking, 150K is really minimum wage. Hey, I live in New York. 150K doesn't
It's getting you nowhere, right? It's getting you
cut it.
absolutely nowhere. That's
Right.
a whole different conversation.
Yes, indeed.
I'm outside of Chicago. We have not as bad, but not a terribly dissimilar situation here.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this? How did you know that this was your thing?
Oh, such a great question. I'm so glad you asked. So I was in property management for 25 years.
Oh, that's why we love each other. My first job, I laughed. My first job managing a over 700 units, 15 acres in the Chicago suburbs. Who put 26-year-old Erin in charge of their multi-million-dollar asset? That's all I want to know.
I was 18 when I started. Yeah, I get it. So, when I was 18, my aunt owned a building and I started living there and managing that building. I learned a lot from her. And then I got myself a job with 1,600 units. And then it just escalated. Yeah. And when I was 24, I was named Businesswoman of the Year in that industry of property management of all Canada. 24 years old. You're saying 26. I get it. I'm like, okay, you people.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We're getting Manager of the Year and Leasing Agent of the Year.
Yes.
And you barely know what you're doing.
No, you're just frustrated every day. It's like, my condolences though for you getting through this, because property management is a thankless job. And
my brother, that's what my mother did. I started showing apartments when I was 10. Downtown Chicago, right? And my brother is still in the industry. And I think as people have gotten crazier, that job has just gotten harder.
Yeah. And so I wrote a couple of books on the subject matter. I had one of the largest property management companies in Florida between 2002 and 2003 and 2012. And so I closed that down and I changed the law in the state of Florida for homeowners associations. It was a great thing. I felt like Legally Blonde. So one day, just to go back to your question, one day my girlfriend asked me to speak at a women's shelter. And that was back in 2006. So I said to her, what do you want me to speak about? Property management? I was being like, what? And she said, no, silly. I want you to speak about your story. And I want you to give these women hope. You live a lifestyle that most people dream about. Long story short, I speak at the shelter and there's a woman there. After everybody thanked me and so on, which doesn't happen in property management.
Right.
They came up to me and thank you for sharing. Thank you for giving me hope. But one lady specifically was crying. We were trying to calm her down. Finally, she showed me a piece of paper and she said, you see here, this is how I was going to kill myself this morning. In fact, I don't remember driving from my house to the shelter because you see here, that's not where I was going. But I heard you speak and I want to live. I just need you to show me how. And Orly just collapsed in tears. I could not hold myself together. It was my first ever motivational speech, which I actually hired a coach. It took 3 months for me to get this right. Although I followed Tony Robbins and all those guys for years, and I spent a lot of money, but this was a real wake-up call to our power of what we do and how we change people's lives. Because it wasn't in my head like, oh, wow, that was cool. No, it was, wow, I just saved somebody's life. And for me, so I was driving back from that shelter saying, screw property management. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
It's one of those things that, do I want to stay in chaos where everybody hates me and everyone's always mad? Or do I want to create life-changing aha moments for people that can improve everybody's existence?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why we're here. And so later on, I was already started to, I left property management and I started traveling all over the world, speaking in corporations. I got myself certified as a behavior analyst. I teach people how to close the deal in 98% of the time. I also help with networking. Your network is your net worth. If you don't make enough money, you don't know enough people. And then also mindset mastery, which has to do with trauma, any kind of trauma. And it's pretty cool program. So that's really what I do and speak about. And later on, because that was just, my life. I was jet setting, traveling 28 countries, 18 states. I had a blast. And then I went on a tour in Europe for 7 countries. And coming back, I was in Arlington, Texas. And this is the cool story of why I do what I do today. I basically was in the break room for speakers in Arlington, Texas, and these 3 guys came over to me, and one of them said, "Aren't you Orly Amor?" I said, "Yeah, do I know you? Sorry, don't remember." And he said, no, we've never met before, but we've seen you on the circuit. And I said, "Oh, okay." So we started networking and talking. And at one point, one of them said to me, "I'm just curious, how did you get this gig?" I said, "I don't know. I called, I told them what I speak about. They paid me and I'm here." They all looked at me like if I had 3 heads. "You got paid?" And I'm like, "Oh no, what did I just do?" You guys didn't? And they said, "Oh no, we got our expenses paid, but we didn't get paid." I said, "No, I got paid and I got my expenses paid." So they said, "Well, we want to know how you did that." And jokingly, Erin, I said, "Well, if I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have to charge you." But I was just kidding. And before I could say just kidding,
You're like, how much?
Okay, how much? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's where my whole world changed, because that was my aha moment of knowing that speakers did not get paid. I didn't know that before that day.
It's so many things. So one of the things that it reminds me of is when you don't know something shouldn't work, you just make it work. Right? Like, isn't that crazy? The naive person often is the winner because you don't know that it shouldn't have happened that way.
Right. Right.
When I was in commercial real estate, I got our team a request for a proposal to be able to manage the entire real estate asset for American Family Insurance. And I got it off of a cold call. Only because nobody told, the kid, 28, 29 by then, that shouldn't have worked. Like, I didn't know that was way too big a fish to call. So I just called them and here we are. Right. So there's a bit of that. But the other thing that you said that is so simple and so genius. Where is the intersection between your ideal client's biggest problem and the problem that you solve? And I watch so many speakers trying to get booked for gigs with speeches nobody wants to hear. I watch business owners trying to sell things nobody wants to buy. Where is right? Like, what? You didn't know you did this at the time because it just came out of your mouth. But where is that intersection between the thing that you know how to do and the thing that people want?
Well, here's the thing. People who are speakers, coaches, authors who want to get their message out, especially, and also, entrepreneurs want to get clients. So public speaking is one of the best marketing tools. But I would say that you have to understand the numbers in the industry itself. It's $113 billion a year industry, number one. Number two, there are 64,000 events a day in America alone, Canada and the United States, that pay speakers. Yet most speakers don't make $100,000. Why? Right? And what's needed in the industry is variety, diversity, and women speakers. And actually, women are only 1.9% of all the speakers in the world, which is really heartbreaking for me as a woman.
Well, and I want to stop you on that for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that is fantastic news. And I say that because so much, I want my audience to really, really, really hear that, because I think what happens to so many of us is, as a speaker myself, as a coach and consultant myself, I am surrounded by coaches and consultants and speakers. So I could think the opposite of what you said is true, just because it's my perception, right? But the reality is, and repeat that statistic for me, the reality is
$113.2 billion a year industry, 64,000 events per day in America alone, Canada, and the United States that pay speakers. And women are very much in lack in this industry. Actually, right now, according to the brokerage of speakers and coaches, we are 1 million speakers short in the world and 1 million coaches short in the world.
And it surely doesn't feel like that from our right?
I know, because that's all we meet, and that's a circle.
Yeah.
So everybody always asks me, how do you get booked? How do you get it done? And I'm like, because I don't hang out with speakers and coaches and authors. I'm not in the I'm not in a competition with anyone.
Right.
Basically, I'm in my own lane. So a lot of people hang out with speakers and they think they're going to get more speaking gigs, or they think a podcast is a speaking opportunity. It's not. Get over yourself. It's good to have.
It's different. It's a different medium. It's like saying I got on radio. That's the same as television. They're both great, but they're not the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you're right.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Ready Yet podcast, brought to you by Conquer Your Business. With decades of experience, Conquer Your Business creates business and branding strategies that build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses. And we don't just show you what to do. We have an entire team of people available to help you do it, strategy and implementation. You can learn more and reach out to us by visiting conqueryourbusiness.com.
And that's why I'm in my own lane. And what I put together is called the Business in a Box for public speakers. It's a metaphorical box, and it just gives them everything they need in the way event planners want to see it. A lot of people tell me, oh, I have my one sheet. By the way, it's not called that. It's never been called that. It's the lazy way of saying I have a media and a speaker sheet. Yeah, it's like, oh.
Well, and I always laugh because this was pre-pandemic, but in 2020, I had 30 speaking gigs booked for the year. Mm-hmm. And I still don't have a one sheet. I've never had a one sheet.
Okay. Yeah, that could be.
Like I just talk to people. It's this crazy idea of like connecting with other humans.
Oh, what a concept, Erin. What a concept.
I just talk to people. Oh my God.
Exactly. Absolutely. Networking is important. Social proof is important. Yes. But look, I had my website hacked for 2 years. This is a true story. Can't make this shit up. And I never needed my website to get booked as a speaker for 2 years. And it was during pandemic. It was after the pandemic, 21 and 22, I had no website at all. Couldn't find me on a website. Okay, you don't need one. I have so many people say, I'm writing my book, and after that, I'll come and see you. Or I'm working on my website. Once it's done, I'll come see you. It's like, why? Nobody knows even who you are. What are you working on? Get yourself out there first.
Yeah, the best advice I was ever given when I started speaking. Now, by the way, I was forced into professional speaking because when I was at the commercial real estate company, the team that I was on was doing a presentation. So they made me be part of that. And so that was fun. And then in my corporate job, I did, traveled across the country and was speaking. But when I started to make it part of my marketing and really a part of a focus, the best advice I got was the only way to be a speaker is go out there and speak. Like,
what a concept.
What a concept, right? You cannot think your way out of this. You cannot practice your way out of this, because what does Mike Tyson say? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's a lot like professional speaking. You can practice all you want in the mirror in front of your dog, but I'm telling you, in front of 1,000 people, anything can happen.
Right. Absolutely.
Get out there and do it.
Yes. And a lot of people come to me and say, well, I'm not sure if I'm a good speaker. And I say to people again, 64,000 events a day. So here's the deal. If you go in front of people and you get paid to speak and you suck, they won't call you back. But you have another 64,000, to go after.
And that was another, that worrying about not doing well. There are 300 people in New Orleans who think I suck because it just didn't go well. It went great for that same, luckily for me, the event that I spoke at for that same group of people the night before went really, really well.
Right.
But then the day, right, it just happens, and you cannot let that, if this is what you want, we were chatting before we hit the record, or maybe it was after, like when you're passionate about something and you want it.
Yeah. You'll do what you'll need what it takes to get it done, and here's the thing, when you're passionate also, you can't give up. You can't just work one day and because you get a no. I mean, how many no's, how many stories do you need to hear of the underdog coming out and making it to billions? How many stories do you need to hear to get inspired, right? Because people have done it before you, and you were talking to me about a woman who has 3 kids and grew her business within 1 year. Yes, you got to give it a year at least. So I have clients who have not made 150K because they didn't want to do the 1 hour a day I asked them to do 5 days a week. Well, so you wouldn't work an hour a day, 5 days a week for $150,000 a year.
Because it's not going to happen immediately, right? And this is my new obsession, and it's not a new quote from him, but I had only recently come across it. And I keep saying to people, what do you want and how bad do you want it? And It's that Usain Bolt quote that he ran for 4 years he worked for 4 years in order to run for 9 seconds. And people quit after 2 months and not getting the results they want.
Exactly. Instant gratification doesn't exist in anything, unless you go and because
TikTok.
you're on the, sorry?
TikTok.
Scroll, or you want to lose weight and you go to the fridge and there's a chocolate cake and you'll eat it. That's your instant gratification. At the end of the day, any business has taken time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears to get it done. And maybe, from the lessons learned, you just need to take them as lessons learned and not take things too personally either. In this industry, oh my goodness, I got to tell you, can I tell you a really short story, really funny as hell? I get on stage, the MC introduces me, and I get on stage and I trip over myself and face down on the stage. I am flat. And he looks at me and I look up and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." And then because the audience was like, "Oh," right? And I don't want to keep them there. So I looked at the audience and I from the floor, I said, "Are you guys okay?" Everybody cracked up, laughed, right? And that gave me a chance to get up and I did get hurt, but the show must go on, and you can't put your audience through a pain of any kind unless you're there, because you're there for them. You're here to serve, not to sell. That's what I say. And can I take that as an I'm telling you, one of the most embarrassing moments of my life,
Right. And I think those are great, not that you want to get hurt, but what you learn real fast is you didn't die. What you learn real fast is your audience is actually on your side.
Yes, exactly.
And people are just human.
That's what I was going to say. People are just human. Exactly. Yeah. Remind yourself that you're human too. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to fall. But you just get up, and you're allowed to do a lot of things. You're human, and people don't accept their humanity. It's amazing to me.
So I have to back up and ask you, where does the confidence come from?
Doing it myself for over 27 years. For 27 years now, I can tell you that when I started promoting this guarantee was in 2010, beginning of 2000, actually, and around August of 2010 is when I started coaching, because I said to myself, wait a minute, the numbers don't add up. The work that I do every day, I thought I was doing something special. And I thought that I found something that was just working for me alone. And so I had to say to those 3 guys that I met in Arlington, I said, listen, I created something. I'm not even sure it's working, but I'll guarantee you'll make 150K, or I'll work with you until you do. And and I said it confidently, but this is, when people tell you fake it till you make it, if you believe enough in yourself to do the right thing by people, I'm not talking that it's going to make it, but if they do the work, they'll make it, right? But if they don't do the work, they cannot come back at you. They didn't do the work. But if they do the work and they don't achieve the goal, so that can happen too, and it did, that you have somebody that has your back all the way to reaching that goal, is a big deal.
Right. Well, and it also speaks to your come from energy, which is to be of service, right? Because if you were just out to make the sale, and you've already, right, you explained it, there's a very big difference between people who don't do the work and people who are doing the work and it's just taking a little bit longer.
Right.
Right. And when we see people who are doing the work, people like you and me, so many, like, I will pour into that person like you wouldn't believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't hold back anything. So I give them my whole heart, soul. And I tell them even before they hire me, I'm like, listen, my condolences in advance. If you want to work with me, you have me for life. I'm so sorry. It's like when you sign that contract, it's marriage.
I say the same thing. I'm like, for my private clients, when we talk, oh, here's the deal. I'm going to be all up in your business.
That's cute. I love that. That's a good expression.
Right. It is.
Yep.
So, okay. So let's play a little game here. Let's, as I call it, shorten people's learning curves. I said, if you just don't do it my way, you'll be better off. What's something that you've done that you're like, just don't do this? Like, fail. No, don't do that. Let's shorten people's learning curves.
Don't ask people for permission to forgive you, kind of a thing. Like, don't, because sometimes people just say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to bother you, but you didn't bother me and you didn't even ask. You know, it's like, it's constant people apologetically, always apologizing. Don't apologize. You know, I love Betty White. She lived to be 100 and she never apologized. And that's one of her tips. So I would say that would be my tip. Stop apologizing.
Right. And so many people really do go through life apologizing for just existing and taking up space.
Yes. And that's a sad story, because that means that, you know, their brain is listening to that. Their inner child is listening to that. And that's why they take longer to succeed in life. And that's pains me.
And then what are you most proud of?
I'm proud of a few things. Everything that I've been through and still being alive is a big deal for me. Losing 230 pounds, that's a big deal for me. Finishing my MBA and my law degree, those are big things for me. You know, being able to, even with all the money I've ever made and all the money I make, everything that everything that even surrounds money, that I've been able to keep my feet to the ground, humble to the core, and still be of service to others.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So if people want to work with you, learn more about you, follow you around, hear you speak, all of the cool stuff, where is the easiest way to find you?
I am Orly Amor. So I am Orly Amor. Is everything from LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's all that.
Not hiding. And we'll make sure the link is clickable as well.
Yes, and meetorlyamor.com is my website, and you can go there and click on the link that gets you on my calendar. Let's have a chat, whatever you want to ask me. There is no catch, there is no pitch. This is it. No, this is it. What you see is what you get, really. Yes, so if you need any kind of, do you want to bounce something off me? All of it is good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your effort, your input. All of the things, your authenticity, I absolutely love. I've known you for a while. I've loved watching your progression and what you're doing for people. So thank you for spending some time with me today.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you for having me.